Today, let's discuss a question that many people are concerned about. Exactly how many more years can Shanxi's coal be mined? This is a very interesting subject. In 1984, when I participated in compiling Shanxi Coal's 7th five-year plan, the institutional forecast at the time was that Shanxi's coal resources would last for another 70 to 80 years. At that time, Shanxi's annual coal production averaged less than 200 million tons. 40 years later, today, Shanxi's coal production has remained at a level of around 1.2 billion tons for several consecutive years. Yet, according to the book I published in 2007, Shanxi Coal Resources and Development Strategy Evaluation, the compiled data shows that coal resources in Shanxi can still be mined for another 70 to 80 years today. So how many years can Shanxi coal actually be produced? Today, from a third-party perspective, let's break it down and see exactly what the logic is. According to data released by the Shanxi Coal Geology Bureau in 2005, total coal resources in Shanxi shallower than 2,000 meters are 655.2 billion tons. Why is it shallower than 2,000 meters? This is because our experts generally believe that resources any deeper would be unfavorable for mining, or simply impossible to extract. Therefore, we set the calculable resources within 2,000 meters. Of these 655.2 billion tons, 390 billion tons are predicted resources. So-called predicted resources are what we infer based on the resources we have already explored, or obtained through geophysical surveys, or a small number of geological reconnaissance boreholes. When professional agencies calculate the service life, this portion is not included. In the identified resources, there is also a portion assessed as uneconomic or having complex geological structures, which are currently unminable or have poor quality. These are not counted. After removing these excluded resource reserves, the remaining usable resources, which we call basic reserves, amount to only 104.5 billion tons. From these 104.5 billion tons, we deduct design losses, coal pillars, etc., and then divide by 1.2 billion tons. It calculates to about 70 to 80 years of mining. So why has production increased about sevenfold over 40 years, yet the remaining mining years stay the same? This is because geological departments continue explorations every year. Every year, they submit new exploration results, thereby replenishing our calculable resources and reserves. That is to say, over these 40 years, our newly explored usable basic reserves and actual coal production have been growing in tandem. Now, let's have another discussion from a resource strategy perspective, or rather from a logical level. Let's reorganize the issues mentioned above. First, how should we treat predicted resources? Based on our methodology for calculating predicted resources during exploration and the actual results, for the same piece of predicted resource, the final results submitted after exploration are highly likely to increase rather than decrease in reserves. Therefore, if we analyze from a strategic standpoint the future recoverable lifespan of Shanxi's coal resources, we certainly cannot leave this portion out. Second, how do we count depleted resources that have finished mining? When relevant departments calculate reserves, every year they subtract mined resources from the recoverable reserves, deducting them as scrapped resources into an off-balance sheet. But is this portion really scrapped? Can it no longer be used? Not quite. Take a look at the last 10 years. In places like Jiaoku, Lingxi, and Pingding, there are several high-output open-cast coal mines. The resources they are mining are not within the designs of authoritative agencies, nor are they being mined within our objectively existing reserves. They are all conducting secondary mining in abandoned groves. This portion of production will continue to contribute in the future. Looking at the total mining volume in Shanxi, we should actually look back and calculate this as well. Third, how do we count resources that are currently uneconomic or hard to mine? Actually, as future mining technology improves and the coal prices rise, or with the application of special underground mining methods, the day will come when these resources are still utilized. Of course, we cannot leave them out either. When we look back and calculate it this way, then Shanxi's 655.2 billion tons of resources within a depth of 2,000 meters, based on the average extraction rate of our mining areas over the years, say at a 50% recovery rate, and at our recent annual production rate of 1.2 billion tons, we calculate that mining can continue for 270 years. Is 270 years correct? Obviously not. First, resources below 2,000 meters, with the development of robotics and underground gasification technology, will certainly be utilized. Furthermore, coal demand has likely peaked today. In fact, the future of coal will certainly be a process of production reduction. And as industrialization finishes and alternative energy develops, the speed of coal demand reduction will accelerate. These are still far from the key of the problem. The most fundamental aspect is to trace back to the source of our coal. Coal is converted from large amounts of carbon dioxide through photosynthesis. Currently, the Earth burns over 8 billion tons of coal every year, emitting more than 37 billion tons of carbon dioxide. The rapidly increasing atmospheric carbon dioxide will gradually approach the carbon dioxide concentrations of the era when plants developed on a massive scale to form coal. A sufficient amount of carbon dioxide will greatly improve photosynthetic efficiency and promote the rapid growth of biomass. This will lead to continuously falling bioenergy costs, which will drop below the rising cost of coal production, eventually replacing coal energy. Of course, by that time, looking from the perspective of human energy demand, the efficiency of using biomass energy directly will certainly be better. Therefore, we will no longer need to wait for this biomass to form coal again for our use. Okay. Regarding this issue, in my book Carbon Cycling, published last year, there are detailed data and arguments. I'll stop here for now. Thus, we have reached the conclusion: Shanxi's coal resources will only be abandoned. They will not be exhausted. Alright, if you have any questions, please leave a message. See you next time.